Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those that are watching us. This is another edition of our Karimu Talks, where I am interviewing a few of our staff and volunteers. My name is Eduardo. I'm from Brazil, and I started as a volunteer for Karimu in July 2023, where I met Yariv. Oh, Yariv, how are you?
Good, good. Hey, yeah. Great to see you again and to talk.
Yeah, it's very good to see you again. So we become friends in July 2023, where Yariv was with me in one of the volunteers trip that we did. We attended last year, and we visited Ayalagaya and Arri. And Yariv, where are you now?
I am currently back in Switzerland where I live, yeah, with the family. By the way, I did not come alone. I actually came with my wife and four kids. We
Exactly.
came-
So Yariv took his family, his whole family, in the volunteer trip. And we will talk a little more about this topic about bringing the whole family, why. But let me start with your background. So Yariv, who are you, and what do you do for living? That you now live in Switzerland. But
yeah,
tell us a little bit about you, your background, what you do for living.
sure. Yeah, so hi, I'm Yariv. I'm originally from Israel, but almost 17 years ago, I moved to Switzerland with my family. Back then, it was two kids and a small baby. And then we had the fourth one here. And I came to work here for Google as a product manager. And actually, this is where I met Nelson at
Okay,
Google.
Nelson again.
Nelson Matos from the man and the legend of Karimu at the moment. And I was actually fortunate enough to join his team of emerging markets very early on. And I was leading product management for emerging markets and afterwards also engineering. And I spent 3.5 years with Nelson, traveling around different areas, Latin America, Southeast Asia, India. But actually, the heart of a lot of what we did was in Africa, and specifically sub-Saharan Africa, where we had the mission of bringing the internet. We believe that by bringing the internet, we can actually, help economically and education and so forth. That it's kind of a way to equalize access to information and to services. Um, I think that's when I fell in love with Africa, and I spent quite a lot of time. I have quite a few friends in across Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa. We've been Uganda. Yeah, we traveled quite around. Um, and I then when Nelson left, I continued at Google. I work on AI. I work on Gen AI at the moment. Hot topic. We were always kind of in contact. We always I was always intrigued and told him, "Hey Nelson, I really want my kids who grew up in a privileged environment here in Switzerland, although they're also involved actually in projects. My daughter did a project in Southeast Asia and so forth. I always wanted them actually to visit and see the work. I knew Karimu from I think the 2014 or 15 or something like that. I told him, hey, when my kids maybe become a bit older, I would love to go there, volunteer, and see how I can help. Yeah, so this has been a long time in the planning.
Amazing. So, yeah, you said many important things. Let's recover a little bit. So, um, you used to work for Google to improve the access to technology in Africa. So, tell us a little bit about the reality. Like, for example, people think, I have my Instagram, my YouTube application, I have my email. Does this work well in Africa? What are the challenges to bring technology to Africa? I remember you told me a little bit that you have to redesign some of the Google apps for the reality of connectivity in Africa for them to be able to use it, right?
So I think there was like multiple challenges, and this is like also like we're talking about 2009. right? So actually, that was like even very, very early on. So we had multiple challenges that we needed to act upon. One was, infrastructure, right? We
Mhm.
assume that, mobile towers exist, mobile networks exist. We assume that there is Wi-Fi. We assume that devices with certain capabilities exist, right? So when we develop an app, as engineers and as product managers, we make some assumptions on the possibility of the network and the possibility of the device, and we design for that. And we all know, like, if you try now to run one of these apps on an older device, or sometimes when you're traveling to a place where there is only 3G or 2G, stuff that just don't work. And at that time, definitely in Africa, there was no infrastructure at all. So there was a lot of, of hi, how do we incentivize mobile operators to create this infrastructure? How do we help them? How do we create Wi-Fi, maybe hotspots, working with internet cafes? So a lot of infrastructure. And there was also the problem of affordability. A lot of these mobile operators were actually, all the investment in infrastructure were catered to the top 1%, mostly actually expats and a little bit of, like, really the richest of the rich in Africa. And we actually wanted to make internet available for everyone. So we wanted to incentivize them to offer some stuff for free. So we kind of made Google and Gmail and a bunch of services for free. That was, like, a big challenge. We tried to show them that if they actually make flat plans, they would get more usage. So there was, like, just like on that, on infrastructure. Then there was, like, a lot of, we learned ever since, I had a startup in 1998 or 1999. And back then, the late 90s, we kind of started educated businesses and the population on the value of the internet. You don't need to be afraid of it. Here is what you can do with it. Here is how it can improve your business. Here is how it can enhance your life, right? And actually, my startup failed because, I tried to do e-commerce and they were afraid of the internet, right? You know, so
Yeah.
you actually need to educate people, right? Like, these are people that are in 2009, the first time they are seeing internet, and they're
Yeah.
seeing it on a limited device with limited infrastructure, right?
Mhm.
So there was a lot of education and raising awareness on the value, and teaching teachers and teaching businesses and teaching consumers and teaching the government, right? Like, so that there was a lot of that. Then there was, how do we take the existing products of Google and make sure that you can actually use it on this infrastructure? So we created SMS versions of it. We created very simple phone versions of it, because people were either still using old phones like Nokias and Blackberries, when the rest of the world moved on to Android and iPhone, or people were actually using second-hand phones, so these, like, older versions. So we really rebuilt a lot of these apps in a way that actually work on this special infrastructure and devices. And finally, we also recognize specific opportunities for needs in emerging markets that don't exist elsewhere, different payment methods, classifieds that, that were emerging, entertainment apps. So we had also, specific apps for these emerging markets. And then,
So
yeah, yeah,
an interesting thing that before start developing things, you need to listen to them and
yeah,
understanding their reality, their context, and then you start thinking how to help, how to adapt your products to that reality. This is very important to the Karimu. We'll go around and then we'll come
the,
back to this point.
the same mindset, right? Like, you need to focus on a problem, not come with a solution.
Yeah.
And just, like, really, and own that problem and then go through. And another thing that is very interesting, in which I have, on the contrary, in one way I'm saying, oh, African emerging markets are so different, but in other ways, they are actually in many ways similar, but the demographics is different. So when you go to these countries, what you're actually seeing is it's much younger than the Western world. So you are actually many more young people, a huge proportion of the population is under 20.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lower demographics in terms of economics. And if you look, like, if you are looking at the same demographics in the US or in Europe, you actually see very similar behaviors. and
Okay.
many of the challenges that you think. So actually at the end of it, I said, it's not just geographics, it's also demographics. And in some way, right? So the habits, what they do, because a lot of, for example, a lot of the products and the revenue generation in the Western world is actually old white men. And when you go to a market where it's actually, younger, less educated, but aspiring, both urban and yeah, you see different patterns, but actually it's globally. So it was very interesting mix of physical, geographically related challenges, but also just demographics that are very similar but
Mm,
different proportions. So yeah, it
nice.
was very interesting to learn. Yeah, I love the market. I love these
So
places.
so very good. So you had some good experiences in learning about Africa, and then you decided to bring your family. So
Yes.
you already answered why you brought your family, but my question to you was, how was this experience to spend 2 weeks with Karimu in one of our missions? And by the way, you are that are watching, yeah, we have some programs that we can bring the whole family to Ayalagaya, to Tanzania. So if you are interested on this, send us a message and we can give you more information. In our website, karimufoundation.org, you have more information. But Yariv, how was the experience to bring your whole family? So you, your wife, and your 4 kids
Yeah.
to Tanzania.
Yeah. I, I think it was life changing. I was hoping for it to be life changing, and it was life changing. And again, my kids are, we say kids, but like, they are 14, 16, 19, and 21. So basically, I would say young adults.
Yeah.
And because I think, like, Karimu has two flavors, one for smaller kids, which is also super, super cool, and was the week after. And I'm sure you're going to talk with someone, that did that. But like in our trip, actually, the kids behaved completely like adults. Yeah, and I was actually very proud of them. It wasn't easy, and yeah, they were all in. Yeah, that was super cool to see. Um, so I think what I took, what was so important from it, I think, like, first, just experiencing a little bit the taste of what it is to live in this, and we left like, we lived like kings, right? Like,
Yeah.
we were in this, like, super well nice brick houses. Each family had its own toilet and shower. Um, but yeah, we managed, almost all of us, to get sick, and we, there was electricity only 3 hours in the day. The shower was cold, and the toilet, and not Western toilets, and so forth. And I think just experiencing like that, you can read about it, talk about it, whatever, until you actually feel it. You don't really understand that, the circumstances. And then, of course, we visited the schools, and my son, actually, one of his diarrhea episodes happened in a school, and the one that actually did not have a Karimu toilet, so he had the full experience.
Yeah.
So I think they really experienced it firsthand, and I think they will remember it for life, how people are living and how people are studying, and also just observing, the queues for food in the school, and how the classrooms, the old buildings without the windows, without the doors, the halls. And we did a lot of maintenance work together, right? So they went, to look at the toilets in the different places and to see the health. So I think they had this experience that they will never forget, both of the conditions that people live, but the difference that you can actually make with a relatively small, it's not a government, right? It's a relatively small group of people that is actually changing, and how you can actually personally contribute. Right, so they had, first-hand interaction with the kids in the classroom. They actually had first-hand interaction with the staff in the health care places. They actually had, we went and we rode the motorcycles and actually looked at the water, and we saw people coming and taking water. Right, we went into people's houses, and I always raised my kids kind of in international school to be kind of, citizens of the world. But until now, they were citizens of a very specific Swiss neighborhood of the world.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think it definitely opened their eyes, and I know that they will take it, and they will, it changed them. in a better way, and I'm sure that they will come back to that and to similar places. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's fantastic. I completely agree with you. Um, you usually you go there as a volunteer with an expectation that you will help, right? So you will be part of their lives and you help in some way. And it's good to feel that you are helping, but also you learn a lot, right, Yariv? So I think I said something from a friend of mine that did another expedition with Karimu, that he said we receive more
yes,
these experiences than we give.
yeah.
So I think I'm sure that your family learned a lot from this tasks that they had to
Yeah. They
perform.
actually also got friends, right? So we actually organized the two game nights. My kids actually were like kind of in a casino. They were like, because we're like, so many. We actually owned 4 tables over there, like where we played with the high school kids. And it was much easier because all the high school kids speak English. And actually, my kid just like told me last week or whatnot that he got a message from one of the kids. Hey, do you remember me? We played, and he of course responded, right? And having this kind of friends across the in different countries, it made them so happy also to remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's unbelievable. I remember the pictures of the game night. So we usually we bring some games like table games and card games,
yeah,
and some of the volunteers they interact with the kids. They organize
yeah,
this very happy and exciting sessions. And yeah, and your family you were leading one of
yeah.
these days. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we were also the same age, right? So it was like the first time that they interacted with kids. They're the same. It was very interesting to hear the comparing. Hey, what's your school experience? What's your school experience? I mean, it was like really two eager, curious people, talking and exchanging out, and not saying better word. It just
That's
in
different,
many ways,
and
in many
finds
ways,
similarities, right?
a lot of similarities, a lot of right. Like high school is high school is a high school, right?
Yeah,
Like yeah, it's like very interesting.
amazing. And yet, if what's touched your heart most in this experience? So what really moved you during this 2 weeks in Tanzania?
Yeah, it's hard to. So I I heard Nelson talking about it multiple times. I saw multiple. I I was amazed by the visible difference that actually they made to tens of thousands of people already. Like really solving fundamental problems. Like, when you look at the water people use it, when you look at the, the healthcare that does when you go to the classes and you see the difference between a school or not, and then like, so many points, hearing that the high school within 2 years goes from number 3,000 in the country to number 3 just by feeding the kids,
Yeah,
right? Like, it's just like amazing, and looking at the amazing team on the ground that is running it, like it's like really a local team. So yeah, it's like really making a change, and what excited me is I can actually see how you can take that model and scale it
yeah,
further. And it's like, we're right on the, like, yeah, you need to package this thing and empower others actually to do it everywhere. You kind of found a super good formula, and you actually prove that you can do it with leaning heavily on a local team. And I'm sure there are like, hearing the stories of the local team, right? Like, every night we had the privilege of one of the local workers of Karim who tells their life story, amazing, mind blowing, kids growing in impossible and like, just reaching the sky.
yeah,
And I'm sure there are so many such kids in other places, that and this is amazing infrastructure to build on. So
yeah.
yeah, like yeah, so
Yeah, I love what you said. So the impact that we saw in Ayalagaya, again, for those that never been there, so Karimu is working in this village of around 15,000 people called Ayalagaya. They started in 2007, and we in total we invested $5 million uh, from donations from all over the world. And in Ayalagaya, we addressed first the water problem, that we didn't have the distribution of water, and then we start helping building some health facilities, small hospitals. We fixed the schools, we fixed the toilets of the schools, we built kitchens for the school where the kids could eat at school. In many situations, the large majority is the only food that they have is in the school. And we also, as volunteers, we visited Arri, that is another village, a little bigger, around 25,000 people, that Karimu is just starting to work there. So we are starting the water project that we just opened the water a few weeks ago, and you clearly see the impact. You clearly see the difference between a village that we are helping for more than 10 years and a new village that we're starting to help. So when Yariv said that, yeah, now we have a model that we can scale, and we just need more funding to really replicate what we did in Ayalagaya, we replicate in Arri. It's very emotional to see that we will impact, we will change their lives, and we will change the trajectory of that kids. And yeah, from that initiative, we will see doctors, we will see nurses, we will see teachers coming from this change on that infrastructure. So this is very emotional for us and for everyone that is seeing that.
You know, many times in life you say the slogan "changing the world." This is literally changing the world. It's like
exactly, yeah. So if you want to change the world, you can come with us to Tanzania and see with your own eyes where your resources can really change the world. I made a very simple math, Yariv. If we take $5 million and split by 15,000 people, it's just $333 to change the trajectory of one life. So it's very right. So if you keep doing this with very little money, we can make a very huge difference in this population, and we can scale the model. So Nelson truly believed that the model that Karimu built, engaging with the community, listen what they need, they run the project. Yes. We just help, right? If we use this model, we really can change the lives of people. What do you think Karimu needs most to keep growing the impact? So what is your expectations about the future of Karimu?
So I think two things, of course, resources and money is important, and I think this is where the community can help. I think Karimu at its core has the heart and the right listening to the people and the connection on that and understanding. I think what Nelson brought is the DNA of Google, of knowing how to execute and how to think big and at scale. And the hardest thing is always to do the 0 to 1, the first time, to prove that it's possible. Yeah. Then the next part possible a challenge to do is to do it like in 1 to 3 additional, right? Like doing kind of so 0 to 1 was Ayalagaya, 1 is Arri and maybe 1 or 2 others. I think the real big impact is if you now come and package it and say, hey, we have actually analyzed and here is how to do it from a problem and process to do's and don'ts in identifying, how to solve it in other places. Here is how you build an effective NGO. Here is actually some solution package that if your problem has to do with schools, here is, root causes that we identified. Here is places how to do it. Here is how to work. Like really kind of templatize it, because I think there is a lot of great people that want to do it and organizations and governments and other NGOs that want to do it elsewhere. And I think Karimu can kind of become maybe, an organization of organizations. And this is what I would love, actually. And because, definitely Nelson as an individual has a span of it, at an amazing scale. And I think I've started to see that he started also to grow his own people, that they definitely think outside of Ayalagaya, but they can even think outside of that area. And I think that's the next stage of really scaling and taking that effort nationwide and across nations. And this is like also an area that I'm passionate to see how I can contribute and help.
Very good. So, Yariv, I know you're a very busy person, so you probably have a very tough work schedule. I want to thank you very much. I think your testimonial here or all your stories are very important to inspire more volunteers to come and help us, more donors to help us to scale. I want to ask everybody that is watching to follow us on social media. So we are on LinkedIn. Probably you see Yariv post on LinkedIn. So you are watching this because Yariv posts this on LinkedIn. But yeah, we are on Instagram as well, or Facebook. And also go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter where Nelson reports all the results. We are a very transparent organization. So all the math, all the investments we made is reported in the website and the newsletters. And yeah, help us to change people's lives. And any final message, Yariv?
Yes, on behalf of me and my family, huge thank you for Karimu for this life-changing experience. So grateful, amazing, and we'll definitely, it's not the last time we're doing it, and huge recommendation to anyone else, do it.
And we had a lot of fun, right? So we worked hard, we interacted with the community, and between us, we became friends. We had a lot of fun. We exchanged life experience between the volunteers. So I loved your family, beautiful family, amazing kids. So we had great conversation. I went to the hospital because I also had a diarrhea, and I went to the hospital with Yariv's wife and Yariv's daughter. So at the end, we were together and in a very good time.
Awesome. Thank
You
you
very much for watching. I see you soon in another episode of Karimu Talks.
Thank you. Okay, yeah.